Okay, so you've probably heard of oxytocin, right? It's got this huge reputation. But what if that reputation is, well, mostly a myth? In this explainer, we're going to dig into the science that completely flips the script on the so-called love hormone.
You know, the nicknames, the love hormone, the cuddle chemical. It's kind of sold as the secret sauce for social bonding. But is that really the whole story? What if, for some people, it actually does the exact opposite?
So the popular story goes something like this. Oxytocin is this universally positive thing, a social lubricant. It's supposed to make us feel connected, more trusting, more willing to hang out with other people. And for a long time, a lot of the science seemed to back that up. It seemed like a nice, simple, positive story.
But here's where it gets really interesting. Other studies started popping up, and they had totally contradictory results. They found that in some situations, oxytocin could actually stir up negative feelings like envy or suspicion, or even make people less cooperative. So what gives? How can one little hormone do both of those things?
Okay, so how do we solve this puzzle? Well, scientists came up with a new way of thinking about it. Instead of seeing oxytocin as a love drug, they started to see it more like a social amplifier, kind of like a volume dial for our social brains.
The official name for this is the social salience hypothesis. And the core idea is that oxytocin doesn't automatically make us feel all warm and fuzzy. Nope. Instead, it just makes us pay way more attention to the social cues that are already there. Body language, tone of voice, the whole vibe of a situation.
Seriously, think about it like a volume dial for all the social information hitting your brain. It doesn't change the song that's playing, it just cranks it up. So if the social cues around you are positive and friendly, you'll feel even more positive. But if those cues feel kind of threatening or weird, oxytocin is going to amplify that feeling of threat too. It just makes the entire social world more intense. So if oxytocin is just turning up the volume, that brings up a really big question. What decides how each of us reacts to that louder social music? Researchers started to think that the answer had less to do with the hormone itself and a lot more to do with us, with our own personalities.
It makes total sense when you think about it, right? I mean, if you and I listen to the same song at full blast, one of us might want to dance and the other one might just get a massive headache. The theory is that the exact same thing is happening with oxytocin. The effect isn't just in the hormone, it's in the person who's experiencing it.
And scientists zeroed in on one key personality trait: empathy. You can think of empathy as our built-in social barometer. It's how we instinctively read and react to the people around us. So their hypothesis was this: a person's level of empathy would be the thing that determines whether those amplified social cues feel like an invitation to connect or a big warning sign to back off.
Of course, a hypothesis is just a cool idea until you can actually test it. So a team of researchers designed a couple of really clever experiments to see if empathy was the missing piece of this whole oxytocin puzzle. Let me show you how they did it.
Okay, in the first experiment, people got a dose of either oxytocin or a placebo. Then they watched a little figure on a screen walk towards them. Their only job was to hit a button the exact moment that figure got uncomfortably close. It's a super simple but really effective way to measure our gut feeling about personal space.
The second experiment was a little more subtle. This time, participants were shown pairs of rooms, just like you see here, and they were asked a simple question: which room would you pick for a personal conversation? The only real difference was how far apart the chairs were. It's another sneaky, clever way of measuring how much social closeness we actually want.
So, to recap, they measured everyone's empathy, gave them either oxytocin or a placebo, and then ran them through these two tests. And when the researchers crunched all the numbers, well, they found something that was incredibly clear, and it just completely blew up that old love hormone idea. Their results showed this absolutely stunning split. For people who scored high on the empathy scale, oxytocin did exactly what the old myth would predict. It made them want to be closer to other people. But for those who scored low in empathy, it did the complete opposite. Oxytocin actually made them want more personal space, to keep their distance.
Let's look at the actual data, because this is wild. This chart is from that first experiment with the approaching figure. See on the left, for the high empathy folks, the red oxytocin bar is lower. That means they let the figure get much closer. But now look at the right. For the low empathy people, that red oxytocin bar is higher. They hit the brakes sooner and wanted more distance.
And what's just incredible is that the second experiment showed the exact same pattern. When it came to choosing a room, the high empathy group on oxytocin consistently picked the layouts with the chairs closer together.
The low empathy group, they trended in the opposite direction. Seeing this pattern repeat across two totally different tests was just powerful evidence for this new theory.
So these results really force us to completely rethink what oxytocin is and what it does. It is not a simple one-size-fits-all social enhancer. No way. Its effects are deeply personal and depend entirely on the situation.
And this has huge implications. I mean, for years, there's been all this talk about using oxytocin to treat things like social anxiety. But these results suggest that could be a really bad idea. The researchers said it best themselves. It might just strengthen patients' initial social biases. In other words, instead of helping, it could just crank up their existing anxieties and make everything worse.
So the bottom line is this: biology isn't destiny. A molecule like oxytocin doesn't have one single fixed meaning. Its effect is really a conversation between our brain chemistry and who we are as individuals, our personality, our life experiences, and how we see the world.
And that leaves us with a pretty fascinating final question to chew on. This research is part of a huge shift happening right now towards what's called personalized medicine. If a single hormone can have the total opposite effect on different people, it forces us to move beyond these one-size-fits-all cures. It really points to a future where treatments are tailored not just to our bodies, but to the unique wiring of our minds.